Imagine waking up, bound and blindfolded, hearing nothing but the distant crash of waves and the slow, heavy footsteps approaching from the shadows. Then, suddenly, you feel the gentle touch of paws on your chest and the warm breath of an unknown friend softly reassuring your battered heart. If you believe in miracles born from loyalty, courage, and unexpected friendship, gently press, subscribe, hit like, and share this journey, because sometimes hope comes quietly, on four paws, exactly when you least expect it. The sun rose gently over the endless expanse of ocean, painting the deserted island in muted gold. The waves whispered softly against the sand, like an old friend sharing a comforting secret. In this quiet place, forgotten by the world, a lone figure moved slowly along the shore. He was a German shepherd, aged about 7, his thick coat now worn and rugged from endless days exposed to salt, wind, and solitude. His colors, once strikingly vivid shades of deep black and warm tan, had faded into muted browns and grays, a living testament to his long isolation. The dog's gentle amber eyes, ringed with wisdom and a trace of sadness, gazed thoughtfully into the distance, scanning the horizon for something he no longer remembered. His name was once Apollo, proudly etched onto a worn leather collar lost to the sea years ago. Apollo had been a highly trained K-9 officer, a proud guardian serving the bustling streets of Savannah, Georgia. His past was a vivid tapestry of busy streets, bright flashing lights, and the familiar warmth of his handler, Officer Daniel Carson. Daniel, a strong and compassionate man in his late 30s, had dark brown hair, steady green eyes, and a laugh that filled rooms with ease. Apollo still remembered the touch of Daniel's hand, the calm strength of his voice, and the feeling of belonging he once had beside him. But that life vanished one stormy night when their ship was violently tossed and torn apart by a fierce hurricane off the Carolina coast. Apollo was cast into the angry sea, struggling desperately against waves larger than mountains, until finally the storm spat him onto this remote, uncharted island. Since that day, Apollo's existence had become one of quiet endurance, surviving on small prey, drinking from rain pools, and curling beneath sheltering palm fronds to sleep. Yet survival was the least of his burdens. Far heavier were the memories. In quiet moments, Apollo would sit on the beach, watching as the sun melted into the ocean, recalling fragments of his lost life. Images came vividly: Daniel's firm commands, the gentle stroke of fingers through his fur, and evenings spent by a comforting fire after long patrols. Sometimes the memories felt so real that Apollo would lift his head, ears alert, convinced Daniel's footsteps were approaching. But the beach remained empty, the horizon silent, and his heart sank deeper each time into loneliness. One particular morning, Apollo trotted slowly toward a sheltered alcove in the rocky cliffs, a secluded spot he had claimed as his den. There, he stored small things he found washed ashore, scraps of cloth, weathered wood, and faded photographs, each holding no meaning to him, but giving faint comfort that something of human warmth had once existed here. Lying quietly in this small sanctuary, Apollo gently nosed a fragment of a torn photograph, its edges curled and colors faded. The face in the image had long since disappeared, worn by salt and sun, yet Apollo sensed its importance. His instincts told him it was a piece of home, a faint echo of what he desperately missed. With a gentle sigh, Apollo closed his eyes, his mind drifting to a vivid memory of Daniel. It was a cool spring morning, bright and clear, when Daniel had knelt beside Apollo, his voice calm and reassuring as he spoke softly about loyalty and duty. Apollo had leaned into Daniel's touch, trusting entirely in the bond they shared. That trust had defined his life, made him whole, and now, even in its absence, it sustained him. But today, as Apollo woke from his wistful dreams, something felt different. His instincts, honed from years of training and hardship, stirred uneasily within him. He lifted his head sharply, amber eyes narrowing as he listened carefully. The wind carried a scent he had not smelled in years, a human presence, mixed with salt, sweat, and fear. Apollo rose quickly, his heart pounding with sudden urgency. The island, long silent and abandoned, was no longer empty. As Apollo moved swiftly toward the scent, something deep within him awakened, a fierce determination born from old training and the undying loyalty he had once pledged. Today, for the first time since the storm had taken him, Apollo felt a purpose. The dog, who had been forgotten by the world, was ready once again to answer the call of duty, loyalty, and compassion. Apollo moved swiftly and silently, weaving through dense underbrush, following the scent that stirred memories of a distant past. Each step took him closer to an unseen presence, each breath sharpening his focus. After years of solitude, the island suddenly felt alive with urgency, each heartbeat resonating with purpose. As Apollo reached the rugged cliffs overlooking a secluded cove, he paused, ears alert and eyes scanning carefully for the source of the scent that filled his senses with concern and anticipation. Below, sheltered by the jagged rocks and shadows of the cave, a man lay bound and battered. He was Andrew Walker, a 35-year-old American sailor from Wilmington, North Carolina. Andrew had sandy brown hair, now tangled and dirty, and a thick beard that concealed the lower half of his weary face. His sturdy build spoke of a life accustomed to the challenges of the sea, but now his muscular frame was bruised and weakened from harsh treatment. His wrists and ankles were bound tightly, the ropes digging painfully into his sunburned skin. Andrew's deep blue eyes, usually calm and determined, were now clouded with exhaustion and despair as he struggled vainly against his bindings. Apollo watched carefully, evaluating the situation as only a trained K-9 officer could. His instincts quickly recognized the human's distress, sensing no threat but rather desperation and need. With gentle caution, Apollo began descending the cliffside, moving slowly to avoid startling the man below. His paws stepped carefully, stones shifting softly beneath his weight as he approached. Andrew, hearing movement, tensed sharply, fearing the pirates had returned to torment him further. But as he strained to see through swollen eyelids, he saw instead the curious gaze of a German shepherd standing quietly at the mouth of the cave. Their eyes met in silent, profound understanding. Apollo sensed Andrew's initial fear, fading into cautious hope. With infinite patience and gentleness, Apollo approached, ears flattened and tail softly swaying, signaling reassurance. Carefully, Apollo reached Andrew, who remained motionless, his breath shallow. The German shepherd lowered his head, gently sniffing the ropes that bound Andrew, instinctively aware of their cruelty. Then, softly, Apollo pressed his muzzle against Andrew's trembling hand, offering warmth, companionship, and comfort. A wave of relief and gratitude washed over Andrew as tears filled his eyes, not from pain, but from the unexpected compassion of this stranger on four paws. In a cracked whisper, Andrew spoke softly to the dog, his voice filled with a raw vulnerability. "Hey there, buddy. I don't know where you came from, but I sure am glad you found me." Apollo's tail wagged gently in response, understanding the man's tone, even if the words themselves were foreign. Andrew's fingers, though bound, softly brushed Apollo's fur, creating an instant, profound connection between them. Apollo gently licked Andrew's injured wrists, offering whatever solace he could provide. The man's breathing steadied slightly, his muscles relaxing under the dog's reassuring presence. For the first time in days, Andrew felt hope ignited within him, a spark provided by the warmth and trust radiating from this noble animal. Determined now to help Andrew further, Apollo carefully studied the ropes. Using teeth trained for precision, the German shepherd began to gnaw gently, patiently, ensuring not to harm the weakened sailor. Minutes felt like hours, yet Apollo worked steadily and tenderly, eventually loosening the bindings enough to ease the painful pressure on Andrew's wrists and ankles. Finally free, though still battered, Andrew pulled himself upright, dizziness briefly overtaking him before Apollo moved in close, pressing his body firmly against Andrew's side for support. Together they sat silently, man and dog, under the dim glow of fading sunlight filtering into the cave. Andrew spoke softly about himself, sharing memories of home, of loved ones he desperately missed, his voice fragile yet grateful. Apollo listened, head resting gently in Andrew's lap, eyes slowly blinking with contentment and understanding. It was as if destiny had woven their paths together, allowing two lost souls to rediscover purpose and compassion in each other's company. Night began to cloak the island in quiet darkness, but inside that cave, Apollo and Andrew found warmth beyond physical comfort. For both, the loneliness that had haunted their hearts finally eased, replaced now by a bond neither fully understood, but both desperately needed. Apollo, once again a guardian, vowed silently to protect this human companion as he had once protected another. And Andrew, rescued from despair, vowed in turn to never abandon the brave shepherd who had returned him to life. As the waves outside whispered gently, a new journey of healing and friendship quietly began. Days turned quietly into weeks, and under Apollo's watchful care, Andrew Walker slowly regained his strength. Life on the island was challenging, but together they established a gentle rhythm of survival, learning to navigate the island's hardships side by side. Apollo, with instincts honed from years of isolation, led Andrew along winding jungle paths to hidden streams where fresh water trickled cool and clear from moss-covered rocks. The German shepherd's acute senses became Andrew's guide, helping him avoid dangerous terrain and warning him softly whenever the shadows concealed threats unseen to human eyes. Together, they foraged beneath the lush canopy, Apollo patiently teaching Andrew which fruits were safe and leading him quietly toward hidden nests of seabirds whose eggs provided precious sustenance. As Andrew grew stronger, he skillfully constructed a modest shelter near the cave's entrance, using fallen branches and broad palm leaves to create protection against the harsh sun and relentless rains. Apollo watched attentively, his intelligent amber eyes shining with approval and pride in his companion's efforts, always nearby, always vigilant, ready to lend quiet comfort when exhaustion overtook Andrew. Each evening, as twilight gently descended upon the island, Andrew sat by their simple campfire, staring thoughtfully into the flickering flames, the glow reflecting softly upon his weathered face. During these quiet hours, Andrew would speak in a low, gentle voice, sharing fragments of memories that seemed long buried but now surfaced with Apollo's patient presence. He spoke about his hometown, Wilmington, the familiar coastal breeze and laughter-filled days, sailing along North Carolina's shores. He described his family with deep longing, his young daughter Emily, a spirited girl with sparkling blue eyes, who eagerly awaited bedtime stories about adventure and bravery, and his wife, Sarah, whose warmth and gentle voice had anchored his turbulent life at sea. Apollo listened intently, resting his head gently on Andrew's knee, ears perked slightly forward, as if absorbing every tender word. He understood the emotional weight Andrew carried and offered solace simply through quiet companionship, providing warmth and unwavering loyalty as Andrew navigated the waves of loneliness and regret that accompanied memories of loved ones left behind. Apollo sensed the man's sorrow and would softly nudge Andrew's hand with his nose, a silent gesture of understanding that eased the heavy ache within Andrew's heart. One cool evening, as stars shimmered faintly above them, Andrew spoke with unsteady emotion, sharing a story he'd long kept to himself. His voice wavered as he recalled the last night spent at home before embarking on the ill-fated voyage. He described tucking Emily into bed, feeling the tiny warmth of her small hands around his neck, promising her he would soon return. That promise, now echoing painfully within his chest, brought quiet tears to Andrew's eyes. Apollo sensed the shift in emotion and gently pressed closer, his comforting warmth soothing the sailor's trembling heart. Andrew whispered softly, "I don't know how to get back to them, buddy, but I won't stop trying. Not now, not after you found me." Apollo sighed deeply, a silent vow to remain steadfast by Andrew's side. As the weeks continued, Andrew's physical wounds gradually healed, though scars remained, subtle reminders of hardships faced and overcome together. With newfound strength, Andrew grew more adept at navigating the island's dense terrain, trusting Apollo implicitly to lead him safely through hidden pathways and dangers lurking unseen. Apollo, ever vigilant, rarely left Andrew's side. His protective instinct, honed through years of loyalty and duty, now focused entirely upon his new human companion. Their bond deepened daily, nurtured by quiet acts of trust, mutual care, and the shared determination to survive. In the harsh solitude of the island, Human and dog discovered comfort and purpose in each other's company, their connection becoming the foundation of renewed hope and resilience. Andrew learned to trust Apollo's guidance implicitly, relying on the dog's keen senses and unwavering presence to sustain both his physical and emotional well-being. Late one evening, beneath a sky heavy with clouds, Andrew gently stroked Apollo's fur, his voice soft and earnest. "Thank you," he murmured quietly, gratitude etched deeply in his words. Apollo turned his gaze upward, eyes reflecting both understanding and silent devotion, reaffirming the bond that now linked them indelibly. In the heart of this unforgiving island, a profound trust had been forged, anchoring both their spirits amidst uncertainty and hardship. Together, Andrew and Apollo had transformed mere survival into a quiet, resilient hope, built upon a friendship powerful enough to heal the deepest wounds. One misty morning, a dark shadow crept across the distant horizon, swiftly approaching the island with silent menace. Andrew noticed it first, eyes narrowing anxiously, pulse quickening as he realized the pirates had returned. Apollo stood protectively beside him, ears perked, body rigid with alertness, sensing Andrew's sudden shift in mood. The German shepherd's sharp gaze followed Andrew's concerned eyes toward the approaching vessel, instantly recognizing danger. Without words, both knew the fragile peace they had cultivated was now shattered, replaced by a relentless struggle for survival. Andrew knelt beside Apollo, gently placing a hand on the dog's powerful shoulders, his voice calm yet firm as he whispered, "It's time, buddy. We need to be smart." They quickly moved from their shelter, quietly slipping into the dense jungle cover, hearts beating rapidly in tandem. Apollo led Andrew toward hidden trails, instincts guiding him expertly as they navigated deeper into the lush foliage, away from familiar landmarks. Andrew carefully watched Apollo's every signal, knowing their lives depended upon the dog's keen senses and tactical skills acquired during his years as a highly trained K9. Together, they quickly crafted simple but effective traps, branches rigged with vines, concealed pits, and strategically placed decoys designed to mislead pursuers. Andrew worked silently and swiftly, trusting Apollo's alert gestures to position each trap precisely where the approaching threat would inevitably pass. The pirates soon landed, voices harsh and angry, echoing harshly across the peaceful landscape Andrew and Apollo had shared. Captain Marcus Flint, the pirates' ruthless leader, stood tall and menacing, his rugged face weathered by countless storms, dark eyes filled with icy resolve. Beside him, his trusted lieutenant, Jake Callahan, younger but equally intimidating, scanned the ground for signs of Andrew's presence, his sharp features tightened with cold determination. Together with their crew, Flint and Callahan began the relentless pursuit, eyes constantly scanning for any subtle hint of survival. From hidden vantage points, Andrew and Apollo watched cautiously, holding their breath each time the pirates neared a carefully placed trap. Apollo's training emerged clearly as he communicated silently, guiding Andrew with slight gestures and low, barely audible whines, warning whenever danger approached. When the first trap sprung successfully, sending a pirate sprawling and shouting in surprise, Andrew felt a brief surge of triumph, tempered by fear of immediate retaliation. Apollo stayed focused, leading Andrew quietly further into the island's labyrinthine interior, avoiding detection even as angry voices pursued them relentlessly through the jungle. The day stretched on, tension mounting as pirates grew more frustrated, their searches intensifying. Andrew felt exhaustion creeping through his muscles, but Apollo's steadfast presence provided him strength. They moved continuously, setting additional traps and cleverly doubling back to misdirect pursuers. Andrew marveled silently at Apollo's tactical intelligence, the dog carefully monitoring each pirate's movement, ears alert and nose sniffing gently at the breeze for subtle shifts that might indicate danger. Apollo's guidance became the thin line separating survival from capture, his loyalty unwavering as they faced the escalating threat. As twilight approached, fatigue weighed heavily upon Andrew. Apollo sensed his companion's exhaustion and gently nudged him toward a secluded hollow beneath dense underbrush. They paused briefly, Andrew breathing deeply, hand softly stroking Apollo's fur in silent gratitude for the dog's tireless vigilance. But their momentary peace shattered abruptly as a voice echoed harshly nearby. Captain Flint's sharp commands filled the air, sending a chill through Andrew's weary body. Apollo growled softly, hackles raised defensively, amber eyes locked fiercely onto the approaching danger. Heart pounding, Andrew silently signaled Apollo to remain quiet, holding his breath as shadows approached ominously close. Flint's heavy boots crushed leaves mere steps away, his cold voice calling angrily for Andrew to reveal himself. Andrew closed his eyes tightly, silently praying their camouflage would hold. Apollo remained still, muscles tense but controlled, showing incredible discipline and trust in Andrew's leadership. The pirates lingered dangerously close, their frustrated whispers like knives in Andrew's ears, until finally, unable to locate their quarry, they moved away, footsteps fading gradually into the night. Only after complete silence returned did Andrew dare to breathe freely again, relief flooding him with quiet intensity. Apollo gently nudged his hand, a silent reassurance that they had survived yet another perilous moment together. Their bond, forged through adversity and trust, had once more withstood a severe test. Andrew looked gratefully into Apollo's wise, loyal eyes, whispering softly, "I couldn't have done it without you, Apollo." Together, beneath the quiet, starlit sky, man and dog remained vigilant, fully aware the threat had not vanished entirely. But now, strengthened by shared courage and resilience, they were ready to face whatever new trials awaited them in the uncertain dawn. As dawn's gentle glow began to spread over the island, Andrew Walker woke from a restless sleep, heart heavy yet determined. Beside him, Apollo lay quietly alert, his amber eyes soft but watchful. They both knew the pirates would soon renew their relentless pursuit, and this quiet moment was a brief sanctuary in the storm of danger. Andrew gently placed his hand on Apollo's back, feeling the dog's steady breathing beneath his palm, silently grateful for this unwavering guardian who had become so integral to his survival. Just as Andrew rose to stretch his tired limbs, the jungle erupted suddenly with angry shouts and crashing footsteps. Captain Marcus Flint, fierce determination etched deeply across his rugged face, emerged from the thick foliage with Jake Callahan and several crew members close behind, weapons at the ready, eyes blazing. Apollo immediately moved forward, standing protectively between Andrew and the advancing threat, his body tense but unafraid. Andrew felt panic surge within him, yet Apollo's calm presence steadied his resolve. Andrew quickly stepped beside Apollo, knowing they would face this final confrontation together. Flint glared menacingly at Andrew, growling in frustration, demanding surrender, but Andrew held firm, courage filling his voice as he calmly refused. Apollo, sensing the escalating danger, growled softly, muscles rigid, ready to defend his companion. Flint advanced angrily, determined to reclaim his captive, his movements swift and threatening. Instantly, Apollo sprang forward courageously, intercepting Flint's path, teeth bared fiercely yet controlled. Flint's crew hesitated, momentarily stunned by Apollo's bravery, but Flint himself struck violently at the dog, wielding his heavy boot mercilessly. Apollo yelped sharply in pain but refused to yield ground, his determination unwavering despite injuries now marking his loyal body. Andrew's heart shattered at Apollo's cries, fury and despair intertwining, pushing him to act decisively. Ignoring his own fear, Andrew charged toward Flint, fighting desperately to protect his faithful friend. Chaos erupted, a blur of frantic struggle, Andrew driven solely by the urgent need to safeguard Apollo. Despite their bravery, Andrew and Apollo soon found themselves overwhelmed, surrounded by hostile faces. Hope seemed fleeting until the faint but unmistakable hum of helicopter blades suddenly filled the air above. The pirates hesitated, confusion and fear briefly overtaking their anger, as a U.S. Coast Guard helicopter swiftly descended toward the island, its presence a beacon of rescue. As the rescue team, led by Lieutenant Emma Brooks, a capable officer with short brown hair and decisive blue eyes, swiftly took control, Flint and his crew scattered desperately into the jungle. Andrew fell to his knees beside Apollo, carefully cradling the wounded German shepherd in his arms, anguish evident in his expression. Apollo whimpered softly but remained calm, gazing trustingly at Andrew through weary, pain-filled eyes. Lieutenant Brooks knelt quickly beside them, her voice calm and reassuring, gently assessing Apollo's injuries, recognizing immediately the extraordinary bond that had sustained them both through so many trials. Andrew whispered softly to Apollo, comforting words filled with gratitude, promising quietly that he would never again face abandonment or loneliness. Tears welled silently in Andrew's eyes, emotions overwhelming him as the rescue team carefully lifted Apollo onto a stretcher, assuring Andrew he would receive immediate veterinary care. As they boarded the helicopter, Andrew held Apollo's paw gently, feeling the dog's warm breath on his hand, knowing with profound certainty that Apollo had given everything to protect him, exemplifying unwavering loyalty, courage, and love. Days later, safely back in Wilmington, Andrew stood quietly beside Apollo's recovery bed at a veterinary clinic, softly stroking the dog's fur. Apollo, bandaged and weary yet steadily healing, gazed at Andrew with familiar warmth and trust. Andrew felt an immense gratitude swell within him, grateful not only for their physical rescue but also for the healing journey Apollo had inspired within his heart. In Apollo, Andrew had rediscovered courage, compassion, and hope, understanding now more deeply than ever the incredible gifts animals can bring into human lives. Weeks later, Andrew gently guided Apollo onto the sandy shores near his home, the dog moving slowly but confidently, his recovery nearly complete. Andrew's daughter, Emily, with sparkling eyes filled with joy, ran toward Apollo, embracing him lovingly, recognizing the brave companion who had brought her father home. Apollo's tail wagged gently, his eyes bright with newfound purpose, knowing he had finally come home, cherished and loved. Andrew knelt beside Apollo, quietly murmuring words filled with deep emotion, gratitude, and respect, recognizing Apollo not simply as a dog, but as a courageous guardian and faithful friend who had forever changed his life. Their extraordinary journey had revealed profound truths about loyalty, sacrifice, and the infinite value of second chances, reminding everyone who heard their story of the healing power of love between human and animal, the enduring strength of compassion, and the precious, hopeful light that guides us home. Sometimes, the most profound lessons about love, loyalty, and sacrifice come quietly from those who ask for nothing more than our companionship in return. Apollo's journey reminds us that hope often walks softly beside us, guiding us gently through life's storms. If Apollo's story touched your heart, take a moment to subscribe, share, and keep his legacy of courage alive, because everyone deserves to feel the warmth of unwavering friendship.